Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Simufur AM Championship, round 3, here from a sun-rising Paul Ricard circuit, and certainly looking at an interesting weather forecast for this race. It's brewing up. Obviously, I am joined tonight by Fezz Fox, my usual co-commentator. I will be Hemi, your lead commentators for tonight, and in the steward's box, keeping an eye on everyone's racing and the do's and don'ts, it is Nate and Snowdog. But Nate, even Fezz, it's been a great championship so far. We've seen a lot of points battles, a lot of changes, and Paul Ricard, it's one to shake things up, especially if the weather does what we think it might do.
Well, that's kind of what we're hoping for. We're hoping for mixed conditions. Whether or not we get that is a different story, but yes, I am hoping we're going to have a very exciting race on our hands with regards to some wet pieces of tarmac.
Yeah, well, not only could the mixed conditions obviously throw a bit of a spanner into the works, the cars, this is really sort of a track that defines, these straight line speed cars, but then it can be completely turned on your head if the heavens do open, because then cars like the Porsche, like the 115 with Grim Lilith that we've been seeing so much of as Snowdog, and the 555 takes a bit of a alternate line there. I'm sure there probably is a layout that uses that part of Paul Ricard, seeing out there's about 89,000 layouts for this track, but I digress. Yeah, it you know what I mean? It completely can go from being in the favour of your Hondas and the McLarens, any Audis especially around here, and the one lone Ferrari that we've got. He'll be glad to be here. Put it in the rain though, that could completely undo it, and it'll be a great test of your strategy as well if you have the mixed conditions, because diving in when the track is just damp, for example, that might completely undo your race. And we've actually seen it in the last 2 races that I've done that started on a potential damp track and dried up. We had a big mix of, wet and dry tyre drivers. So this is even in a pro field. And yeah, the strategy was really, really mixed. And both races actually, the strategy wasn't the same. So be interesting to see as we come to the end of free practice, so the last sort of flying laps, people trying to get used to the cars again in the other practice server that we just came from. That it was, it looked like it started dry, and then by the end the track was very much damp, and now we've gone back to a green track. So there has been on the forecast a little bit of rain sprinkled in the air before, but we'll have to see what happens when we roll around to qualifying.
Yeah, and that's what we've kind of been seeing through the practice sessions. It's probably around a 50-50 split as to whether it's raining or dry, so it's kind of anyone's bet at the moment. But yeah, I'm hoping for something, at least I would prefer to start out in the dry. I don't know about you, Hemi, but that's definitely my preference, is a dry start and then progressing into rain. What about you?
Well, it's I don't mind either sort of start really, but what always puts a little bit of a spanner in the works is when you look at the forecast and you realise that the weather is going to change long before your your pit window or your planned pit stop might occur, and that's happened twice in the last 2 races I've done. But as we roll into qualifying, green skies and blue skies and green track, even 30 minutes into the forecast, we're not seeing any rain. So we should see the times start to creep up as well as the track slowly continues to rubber in, and it will be, I believe, Schurex to lead us out in that Aston Martin. And if I remember, the last time we raced here together, the Aston Martin is a strange one, because I remember driving it, and I remember you in a Bentley, and you almost horsing past me. But the Aston Martin is usually a car that is a little bit better in a straight line.
Well, I think it seems to be, at least from my knowledge, it might have changed now. The Aston, it had a really good top speed, but it took forever to get there. So if you had a slipstream, the Aston could hold it with the best of them. but it just took forever to get there, so it was kind of a sitting duck on its own. But yes, as Surex leads us out into qualifying here, it is, as you can see, bone dry.
Bone dry start, but then that adds its own sort of flavour to the mix if we start on a wet track or we start on a track that's going to go wet, you know, because then you might see some of the drivers who are only really good in the dry, you know, fall down the order, and the wet runners, the people who've really practiced in the wet, might come soaring through, but we'll have to wait and see. And like I said, it'll be the 420 to lead us through. I'm expecting some good times towards the end. The track's still green and will sort of dynamically rubber in, but Paul Ricard, as much as a lot of people think it is just a big long straight, a couple of squiggly bits at the end, I find that the track going from the green to fast to optimum here, you can really gain some immense time, because the parts where you do need the grip, are really high speed sections, and it just takes forever on a green track that as we ride on board coming down to turn one, you're looking for your braking marker. A lot of people use the cones on the right. You've got to kind of be careful to do that. I've done it before, and if they get taken out, well, by my braking zone, very careful not to run wide out of turn 2 and 3. That is an invalidation all over it, and once again, done that many times myself. Past the 100 bar, brake hard in a straight line. You're looking for those yellow bollards, but don't touch them, because that is the track limits there. If you run too far wide over that will be your lap also gone in the race. That will be a track limit. Coming out onto the back straight, you can really take some liberties with coming out on this corner. Sherrick's taking the tight line, but I've seen some drivers floor the throttle incredibly early to get the speed, because you've got so much time to swing from the left back to the right again, and onto the long Mistral straight or Lear straight, because you have so much time on your hands now. You can reach over, have a beer, think about life, think about how your car's running, and we're still climbing, still trying to get that top speed. This is when the Ferraris will really be coming into the run. You're looking for, once again, the 100 ball, brake slightly after. This is a terrifying corner in some cars, and I'm looking at you, Bentley drivers, and then you're coming out into the long right-hander. Such a pain on that front left tyre. It's banked towards the inside apex on the second half. You can actually carry some more speed than you think. Then another corner, which is a very weird one, sort of late double apex almost. I've seen some people take a V line there. You can double apex it. A very good corner of many lines, I would say. And then once again, an ultimate corner, long sweeping left, just really putting some strain on that front right that hasn't necessarily been used. So pressures have really got to come up on that final sharp hairpin. You want to get on the power as early as you can, especially in an Aston Martin with the turbos. And for Surex, it's a 157.8. Not a bad time right out of the gate, but I think there's definitely some time to be had when the track starts rubbering in.
Well, I have to give it to you, Hemi. That was really good filler for this back straight there. I didn't think you had it in you.
Hey, that is why I am hired, not by only RCI, but SRO and Ferrari. Yeah. We got put on the night stint of the virtual Le Mans. And what do you talk about at the night stint of virtual Le Mans? We didn't even have our in-car sort of camera. We were just talking about the LMP2s as the 97 comes to the side of the track and stops. Potential wheel problem or a mechanical problem there?
It could be they haven't left track yet, so there might be something untoward happening there.
So it'll be waved yellow in that sector. The 97 remains stationary. Looking back, some of the Hondas now, everyone's sort of filtering through. Blaze is 3/10 off Surex, a good first lap as well. Bracken in the 77 McLaren putting on a good show as well. 6/10 off, but as you know, with the McLaren, you kind of really have to break it in very slowly. And Zar is the lead Honda. Well, no, in fact, no, Blaze is the lead Honda. Zar in the P2 for the Hondas, 1.2 off. But these cars as well, they do race very well just because of the straight line speed.
Yeah, they're. It's going to be interesting to see how the coupe here, the first track Spa we had kind of went in their favour. Barcelona was I think that a few people had a few surprise results in the Honda. So it's going to be interesting to see if it can keep its form here. It looks like at the moment, Blaze in P2. Oh, that's a big slide from Bolly. That's we'll call that one Bentley corner because I know all too well about that, and I'm sure you do as well, Hemi.
Oh, plenty of times. They're usually a much more scary than that. Bunny's also taken the sort of the inside line of there. It's sort of an easy thing to do because the camber almost it will happily turn you in and turn you into the apex as much as you don't want it to sometimes. But yeah, that is 100% Bentley corner. It's the fastest corner of the circuit. You're unloading the suspension and turning at a very, very high G-force moment, and certain cars will just completely bite you. That was a relatively small bite from the McLaren. The Bentley does not even give you warning before you go backwards. Bracken is stuck behind Sarah. Actually, Sarah validates the lap, moves out of the way for Bracken. It might hurt his lap time a little bit. What has the only fans McLaren, the 77, got coming up to the line? It's a mad dash, 1.4 off at the minute, and it was non-improvement that go around.
Yeah, quite a lot of people actually improving at the moment. The track seems to be getting a bit better. The ZZ's 1.3 up on their time. Let's see what they can do here. That should put them well within the top 10. Yeah, 4.6 seconds off. That's not too bad for them. Yeah, Wolfen 2.6 seconds up on his best, so he's definitely going to be looking to improve here. Not a whole lot of improvement otherwise. People still... Obviously, this is Paul Ricard, so there's track limits in play everywhere we go here, and it seems like quite a few people are actually getting caught out with that and not being able to put down lap times.
Yeah, exactly. And for Wolfen, he might just about grab the slipstream of the McLaren up ahead, which would be nice, because the BMW is another car that, like you said, is a bit like the Aston Martin. I noticed it when I raced it at Monza. It has an okay top speed because the gears are so long, but it just takes forever to get there, and that is a scary moment for Wolfen as well. You can take that line, ladies and gentlemen. You can quite happily go as far out on Paul Ricard as you want, so long as you are back within the track by those little bollards. We've seen some very interesting lines in lobbies before, and you don't get any limits as long as you don't hit those bollards, which are there for that. If you go too wide, you just can't save the car in time. But yeah, it is definitely a track for track limits. As the 97 looks at the inside, Wolfen actually moves out of the way. I think the 97 from there earlier, that was the car that was stopped at the side of the track. They've obviously fixed whatever problem they had, and they're now trying to charge through to get any kind of lap time. Wolfen is up to P11. That one was a 2:01.477. And I think that there's probably a good chunk of time there because of what happened at that final hairpin. Bracken improves slightly. 58.1 now puts him just about a second off Blaze, and Cherex is 700ths behind. But this is the car that a lot of people have been watching as well and cheering on. We've got a few fans of them from RCI and Race Ventura in chat. It's Grim Lilith in the 115 has kind of been Grim. Be gentle with a Porsche, gently Bentley, and that is not how Grim drives. I can assure you that Grim is very, very in tune with that Porsche. So what looks like an incredibly scary moment to us, that's like I saw them racing last night in the rain on dry tires because we both took that strategy. It didn't work out, ladies and gentlemen. But around Snetterton, and they were all over it, and it's going to be a
that's an invalid lap.
You saw the wheels lock up. It was just a bit, but what would it have been coming up to the line? It was a huge improvement. It was almost 11 seconds at one point, almost 12.
Yep.
See, that would have been a 1:58.805. So that's with that big last moment. A few more laps left to go though, so it's not all over for the 115 yet, and they are in, relatively speaking, clean air.
Yep, plenty of open road. Well, there's plenty of open road anywhere you look at Paul Ricard. But yeah, I think they're probably maybe sweating a little bit now. They're going to have to start maybe knuckling down and getting a proper lap put in, because it might maybe rain in the race, it may not. Your starting position, is going to be paramount here, especially the Porsche. You want to try and scoot away as quickly as possible in the first sector before you reach this back straight.
Yeah, because as a as a Porsche on Paul Ricard. If you have obviously no one to slipstream in front, if you start on pole position and you come onto the back straight with an Aston Martin, a Mercedes, anything really, they'll just sort of dawdle on by you. Not really. I'd say even before halfway down, you're kind of done as a Porsche driver. You can try and defend it, but it's, you know, a little bit pointless sometimes. The 115 still, they are pushing as hard as they can. That is as much as that Porsche has. And that, looking at their lap time as well on my timing screen, that's still valid.
Yeah,
I told you they can go all the way out there as long as you're back before the bollards. And I think there was at least there was one coat of paint there between the bollards.
that was definitely pushing the limits of track limits there.
Well, it's 8 seconds up, 9 seconds up, 10 seconds up. It looks like it's going to be a good run. Has Grim got anything in the final hairpin to say as well? You've got to floor the throttle early in the Porsche, really get the power down. It's got phenomenal grip and acceleration out of the corners. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be pole position by 0.04 of a second. Blaze has been knocked off the pole position by the 115 Porsche.
But he's half a second up coming into the final corner here. So this might be a short change in guard.
Short change in guard, probably so. Yeah, I said 0.5 there. Actually, was a little bit more time. I briefly saw 0.6 of a second. It just fell off towards the end. 156.5 is the new benchmark to beat. 4/10 is what the 115 has to find. What can Pablo find coming up to the line? That time was not an improvement. And I do believe that the track is starting to slowly rubber in. We've seen the times still sort of drop. A lot of people invalid because of the track limits, but those who are on a lap, you know, it's relatively in the green. But I think for Grim, I think the time has got to be at these top corners because, and bearing in mind, you know, that driver races on a controller. Bentley corner, the death corner on a controller, that must be. Like, I don't know how you do it and still go this fast because you have, you know, obviously very, very fine control. And actually coming through, that one was, you know, there you go, another 10th gained for the 115. It's looking like if they can keep it on the track, very, very wide to the outside. And you've got to be careful when you go that wide because it actually, the camber falls away from you and it wants to try to push your car off. But it's gonna be hard pressed actually. Blaze has returned to the pits, obviously quite happy with that 56 lap time. If the Porsche's got anything in the final hairpin, it might be. Got a few more laps left if they don't. But what will it be for the 115? Turns it in very smooth and early on the power. But I think actually they lost about a 10th there coming up to the line.
Still some time on the table there.
There you go. It will be an improvement, but not much.
I tell you what though. A lot of people make fun of this track, but at this time of day it looks pretty spectacular.
It's pretty spectacular for us in the comms box. I know for some of the drivers, you come down the mid straight with the sun in your eyes and you wish that you had a sun visor in some of these cars, but at least in the sunset, after a while the grandstands hide it. You know, the ones that, that after you come through turn 1, turn 2, the grandstand kind of hides it, which is nice. But sunrise, you just stare into that giant yellow sort of ball of gas that we call the sun and wonder where your retinas went.
Yeah, well, the track has ticked over to fast here, so I think we're going to see a lot of people come in, put a fresh set of boots on, get the pressures turned down a little bit, and go for another few laps here. There's definitely going to be some time left on the table if no one goes out.
And speaking of time on the table, the 97, that was a 157.6. That would have put them quite a way up, but it was just invalid. And so the 97 is another car that appears that they have the pace. It's just Paul Ricard and its kind of intricacies is catching a few people off. But yeah, fast track. A couple of people now going to really start to, you know, be able to pay for that. I'm sort of looking as well. Shurex is up 3/10, so that will bring him close to the fight, and he's still got at least the last sector to go.
Yep, we only have one driver who has put in 6 laps, who has not yet been able to put down a time due to track limits. There's Bolly at the bottom there, unfortunately. Does look to have a bit of pace, maybe mid-pack, but yeah, just getting caught out by the track limits and just unable to put a time in by the looks of it.
Yeah, that's kind of always the problem, as Pablo runs a little bit wide as well, and that will also be an invalidation. The 64, they were up 1.3 seconds almost, so that would have, you know, netted them a bunch of positions. But just once again being caught out by the track limits is one thing as well that, you know, you just gain from racing experience, which is what this championship is about for a lot of these AMP drivers. It's the racing experience and racing on, you know, the multitude of tracks in ACC. As much as a lot of drivers grumble and groan when we say, you know, you have to go to Paul Ricard, because it can bring some great racing, but if you're on your own, it is just dull. And the track is very, very different to every other track because it's very flat. There's very minimal markers for you to use. Obviously, there's the braking markers, but actual physical landmarks, there's not many. So it's, you know, it's always a bit of a struggle. And there you go. The 97 has finally got it through from 10th all the way up to 4th, 6/10 off the lead. So, and finally, Blaze Pine has come back out of the pits. Obviously, has put some fresh tyres on and has tried to sort of, you know, retake his, or shore up his lead a little bit.
Excuse my silence, I am stuffing a pizza into my face. Yes, some good improvements all around. I say Camir's up there in the 4th position. I expected the McLaren to be a little bit stronger here.
Yeah, it's the problem with the McLaren, I think, is that if you don't get, like, getting the lap time is a lot easier if you have a car that is an absolute beast down the straights, because, you know, the sector 1, sector 2 is kind of less important, or, you know, you don't have to worry as much. But the McLaren, as you know, is very much a handling car. So through sector 1 and 3, it will. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising, to be honest, if we look and see that, like, the 97, for example, holds a purple sector 1, and, you know, and the Honda holds the other purple sectors at the end of quality. Really, that wouldn't surprise me. But you've got to drive it so hard and so aggressive that some drivers just kind of, they just struggle with it a little bit. Looking as well, was that invalidation for Skyler? They were very, very wide.
No, it still looked okay.
No, it wasn't. That was. I thought that they went too far narrow. Actually, you know, on the fast right. That's another point on the track limits. You can go too wide. You can also go too narrow, trying to cut the corner and keep the speed up, which is you know, what a lot of the pro drivers will do. But there is a very fine line you must run between, a valid lap and an invalidation.
Yeah, and I'm actually just looking at the best sectors, and Grimm in the Porsche, as expected, is fastest in sector 1. Actually not too far off, maybe about 3/10 off the McLaren in sector 2 for Grimm. But Charter actually holds the middle sector, fastest middle sector with 32.2. And then Blaze in the Honda owns the best final sector with 51.4.
So there you go. Nobody has the solid purple lap, and that kind of shows where the cars are strong and where they fall down. You know, Porsche sector 1 it has everything in the handling. Charter mid of the pack, that is the old gen Audi is Charter. So that car is, unless it's been changed from the last time I drove it, is still monumental in a straight line. And then the Honda, as Paula Brady goes for a spin, the Audi has finally bit. We sort of said how the new gen Audi was, you know, a little bit safe to drive, but it is still an Audi underneath all of those clothes, so that will end their last flying lap as the timer has come to a close. All flying laps will be counted. The 115 is still out. Blaze Pine and Shurex have decided that enough is enough. They've come back to the pit lane. What will Bracken have? One of the early chargers. Looked like it had great pace in the McLaren. It will be an improvement of 57.630 up into 5th position, and I think it looks pretty safe, seeing how Zara has come back to the pit lane. And Grimm, the 115, does cross the line, but did not improve. They will start 3rd position, 4/10 off the leading Honda, but as we know, Sector 1, and what is going to happen with the weather, even that, none of us know for sure. The 176, that circle for the lead Paul Racing team coming up to the line, nailing the Mercedes out, the lone Mercedes in this championship. It seems to be a very popular choice. They will cross the line. It will be an improvement, and it will be 11th place. They will start on the grid just outside the top 10, though. They are, 400ths slower than Jasper in that Ferrari, which is not here nor there for anything. Wolf in one of the last cars to come across the line. What have they got? It is a big improvement at the minute. If they can hold it to the line, a little bit of time lost through the final hairpin, and it will be 17th for them. A nice big jump, 3.8 seconds off the lead, but still a good improvement for the BMW.
Do you think some people have hedged their bets on a wet race?
I think it really depends on when people were in the practice servers. I think it almost seems like half the grid expected it to just be dry, and the other half of fully hedged on a wet race. I know that the 115 and some cars you have to kind of work for a wet race, because if I was in the Porsche, for example, and there was a chance of rain, I wouldn't be driving anywhere on a setup that was so dry focused that it was going to be absolute death in the dry. I mean, remember we made that mistake in the Audi at Kyalami. We thought, this dry setup, this will be fine, and I'm sure nothing will go wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, it went very wrong. We can confirm that the other Audi teams who went on wet setups, they basically lapped us twice. So it was, that was a thing. So I think some people, depending on their car, are hedging the bets. The other thing that I did spot as well, we've had a new sign-up or two as well with the mid-season sign-ups. Have you noticed who is P8? That is a Jag. The 759 is an old gen Jaguar. When was the last time you saw a G2 Jag or an Emil Frey Jaguar being used in anger? I think they've had to drag that out of the museum and blow the cobwebs off of it. But top 10, and in front of Paula as well, and just by Jata, that's some pretty good going.
Yeah, I think the monstrous V8 is helping them out in the back straight there. But as we will take a look at our leaderboard just before the race, our championship standings: Grim in first place with 48 points, Blaze in second place with 42, Surex in third with 35, Charter bringing it up there with the old Artie with 34 points in fourth place, Paula in fifth with 33, Zara in sixth with 28, Bragan in seventh with 23. As I take a deep breath, Skylar in 8th with 22, Azzy in 9th with 22 points again. That's a bit of a tiebreaker there, but that's the way the website put them. Seffi in 10th with 20, Snowdog on 11th with 19 points, Dat Circle in 12th with 15 points. And we've actually got that many races with 2 full pages of times, or points should I say. With Jasper in 13th, but in 14th they're going to be hoping for a better race today. Chuckles in 14th with 13, Hamstito in 15th with 11, Cerulean in 16th with 10, Bunny in 17th with 9, Pablo in 18th with 8, Sylphine, I probably get that wrong again, in 19th with 7 points, Skylar in 20th with 6, ZZ in 21st with 6 again, Sarah Stant in 22nd with 5, Alexis in 23rd with 5, and in 24th with 5, Wolf and Foxtail in 25th with 3, and Percas, I'm not sure, that's probably spelled wrong again, or probably pronounced wrong should I say, in last position 26th with 1 point.
And well, as the cars line up on the grid and sort of we get ready for the race, the one thing that I am noticing out of the windows is that it's very much dry and it's very much not raining, and even the forecast in the 30 minutes is not raining, but the track is still green. which means that in between the sessions, between free practice and qualifying, because qualifying the race, if you remember, it did jump to fast. It means we have had a sprinkling of rain, but it has not graced the presence for the start of the race. Doesn't mean that it won't it won't appear. We only have the forecast for the 30 minutes at least. The drivers will be thankful that for at least for your first stint, for the first half up until a mandatory pit stop, you can kind of bank, at least right now, that it's going to stay dry. But it's now another thing that you've got to keep in the back of your mind as you're racing is, do you have a wet strategy for if the heavens suddenly open?
Well, it's kind of like the opposite of RCI, isn't it? Which stands for rain constantly imminent. Apparently at Simufur, we are forecast constantly wet and always dry.
It does seem a little bit that way a few times. At the last few, for RCI, it hasn't been rain constantly incoming. It has been rain was here. It is now dry, and then about 45 minutes into the race, it's now raining again. So you start on the dries on a damp track, struggle. It dries up. Everyone who took wets dies,
30 seconds.
and then the slick tires come back to life, have way too much pressure because you set them for the damp track, burn them up, and then the rain comes to ruin your day, and then no one knows what the strategy is, and everyone is everywhere. That's literally the last two races that I have done the exact same.
Seconds.
One of them, I was the great, I sort of gained from it, and the other one, I lost out hugely from it, so that is a strategy play and a half. But session starts and all the cars drop off the jacks and get ready and sort of putting all the ignitions and the lights on. It's going to be 1 hour of racing here at a sunrise Paul Ricard. Like you said, very beautiful track to look at, but we've always got to keep an eye on the weather, and if not, it's still going to be some great racing, I think.
Absolutely. As you can see, 2 drivers have 5-second penalties. They are from the previous race. However, we do have a disqualification from the race. Car 117, Skylar Fusky, has been disqualified from the race for an intentional takeout and dangerous driving.
So there you go. We've had a few sort of instances before the race has even begun, and we've got 2 cars as well with 5-second penalties, which I believe is carried over from the last race. It was post-race penalties that have been added into this race.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, that's the only 2. There was a warning as well for impeaching someone on their fast lap, but I think it was kind of a misdemeanor rather than anything else.
Just a warning and a reminder to do it again. So for Jasper and for Skylar as well, both of those cars are going to have to, they're going to have to factor that 5 seconds into their strategy, into the pit stop. If you could pull out if Jasper can pull out 5 seconds to Snowdog and Skylar can run away from Pan, then you'll be all well and good. But obviously, if they don't, they're gonna sort of lose it in the pit stops. I think both of those drivers, what they need to do is you need to not let both the drivers in front break away from you. You need to stay with that train and stay in the slipstream, because if you drop out with Paul Ricard, if you get broken away from the pack, you are, especially depending on what car you're driving, you are a complete sitting duck. Some of the faster cars can kind of hold their own, but if you're a Porsche, for example, McLaren, BMW up to a point. Like BMW, as I mentioned, it's good in the slipstream, but on its own, just doesn't have the grunt to get through its own gearing. So it's a strange one. You've got to kind of pick your battles at Paul Ricard. Do you work with the driver in front? If you're not losing much time, sometimes it's actually advantageous to just work with the driver in front, stay with them, stay with the pack, and and then you all sort of move ahead very slowly. Or do you go full on attack mode and decide that the position is mine? But coming through sector 1, even if you get the position, it can all well be lost by sector 3.
Yeah, especially if you're in the Porsche, that's gonna be Grimm's gonna have to get the best start of his life overtake the two cars in front of him and try and run away in Sector 1 before we get to this back straight. And then I think he might have a chance to win this. But again, we only have a weather forecast of 30 minutes, so just because it's dry now doesn't mean it's going to be dry in an hour.
And it's also gone back to a green track, so the grip level will have dropped from qualifying. Some drivers might be expecting the same levels of grip. You know, try and put the foot down hard out of the corner, and we might see a few sort of, you know, people oncoming from that. And the other thing as well is that obviously the 37 Honda leads us, but the Blazers, well, Grimm has also got the 420 Aston Martin right there, and we know that the Aston Martin is just such a sitting duck, and Grimm is on the inside, the side that you want to be coming into turn 1. If the Porsche can get the jump, get the monumental jump, then maybe they might just be able to hold on to it coming down into the first corner. But we'll find out in a moment, as everyone's too wide. We're waiting for the green flag. We're waiting, rolling out 70 as it's the 37 Honda. The pole setter to lead us away here. 1 hour of racing upon Ricard, and there goes the green. And Grim Lilith gets a monumental jump. Actually moves to the inside. I thought this might happen. The 115 Porsche is on the inside of Blaze. They're 3 wide coming down into the first turn. The 115 just nips up the inside. The Honda is still there, but there you go. They've used the mid-corner speed. Grim Lilith has had the start of a lifetime, exactly what you said they needed to do. The rest of the pack filed through, and now they need to desperately. These couple of corners are critical for that Porsche, because that Honda will catch you on a straight. There's no doubt about it. And the rest of the field still too wide. This is Bracken still trying to go up, battling with Charter, I believe that is. That's the old generation Audi. Paula right in front. Bracken has a bit of a slide, and now he's going to be under fire because you've come on to the long straight. And what is there behind you? 2 great big Audis.
Yep, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the new one matches up to the old one in terms of top speed. But Charter staying well within the slipstream of Bracken there in front of him. So it looks like Blaze only caught Grim by another 2/10 in that straight, so that's exactly what he needed to do. Get ahead, get out front, and run away.
So there you go. Bracken's trying to hang it around the outside of Charter. There's maybe a tiny bit of contact, but files back in. And don't go too deep there. Paula is looking up the inside. Zar is also trying to hang it the long way around to get the cutback. You can see the Honda stream in, but there's just no space there. The Audi is still on the outside. The 77 will still have the inside for this corner. They're going to try and find it round all the way around the long way, but Paula will have to take the escape road a little bit.
Yeah, nice battle here for the top 5 positions. Zar is holding his own in the Honda. It seems to be quite a nice car in Sector 3, at least, with Blaze has caught up quite a fair bit to Grim in that 3rd sector.
Yeah, because that is what we saw, where the purple sector, at least for Sector 3, was just Honda dominated. There was no faster car. The 37 held it, but Sector 1, I'll be interested to see. So it was 4/10 when they crossed the line. It still looks a lot less, but it's these couple of corners, I think, where the Honda starts to struggle, and the Porsche, you can just drive away from it. Sharp left, sharp right, early on the power, and that is also where the Honda loses out a little bit. It is still a turbo car, not quite as laggy as you might expect, but this might be striking distance for the Honda. Grim hasn't managed to pull out quite enough, I don't think, into Sector 1, and here we go. Look at how long the straight is. Grim will be looking at that end corner, wishing it sooner, but now the Honda, it's starting to roll. It's got into its power band, it's got into the gearing, and we're in the slipstream. Not quite as much, as fast as I expected. I expected kind of a Bathurst style of pass, but it seems that actually top end wise kind of runs out of steam.
Well, I tell you what, that's quite surprising. Porsches managed to keep that Honda behind it. I wasn't expecting that at all.
I was expecting a full-on Bathurst style pass where they just the Honda at Bathurst just rolls by. But look at how much corner speed the Honda can carry through that banked right-hander. It's just, even the Porsche cannot do that. I think that is just kind of the mid-engined and how planted that Honda is. It is a mid-engine car, but it's probably one of the most stable cars on the grid. Just no one used to use it because it was kind of out of date. No one really don't really give it a competitive sort of edge. But Kunos have worked a bit of magic, have altered the bop a little bit. Actually, it's now a genuine competitive car. We've even seen it appearing in RCI in a couple of pre-qualify servers that we've got. I'm thinking, when was the last time you ever saw some of these? What's next? Are we going to have the GTR renaissance again?
I hope we have a GTR renaissance again.
When I joined ACC, that was what you drove if you wanted a stable front engine. You drove the GTR.
It was pretty much my first choice, and then I quickly kind of found out that it wasn't actually all that competitive, other than the Bathurst I think it was good at. That's why we don't see any on the grid this time around. Plenty of Hondas, but plenty of McLarens and plenty of Porsches on the grid.
And one Jag that Bunny's trying to get by. You can see the McLaren kind of can hold its own in the corners, and in front that's Czar going very wide. But now you come to the long straight, and what even will happen here? Because, like I said, the Honda is no slouch, but it does seem to lose out over the top speed. But we know that Jaguar, it's a last-gen car. It was designed in an era when what even is handling? We can have speed and put a bigger engine in it. The big wing is an attempt at aerodynamics, but I think you may as well just remove it because it doesn't really seem to do anything on that car.
Oh no! That was Charter. What happened there?
Outside, what happened to Charter to be that slow?
Oh, just already being a
Audi corner. Yep.
Oh, that's unfortunate for Bunny.
Yeah, so probably Bunny couldn't see anything because of the Jag. The Jag avoids at the last second, and then once you've already sort of committed to that corner, in the McLaren, you can't just change a line. So that was just an unfortunate accident, really. The way by the time that they've got the waved yellow flags, you're already coming into that corner at 100 odd miles an hour. Just sometimes there is no time to react. So that is a sad sort of end to Charter as well, because they'll have to, unless they want to pit twice, they have to continue round until the pit window opens.
Yeah, although it looked like that Jaguar had a lot of wing bolted onto it because it really didn't make an impression on Czar in front of him.
No, I was thinking that it would be a lot more sort of roaring past, but that's the other thing that you have to kind of remember as well with the AM Championship is that a lot of people run setups and cars that are comfortable for them, and some people need that stability of a lot of wing. But I know all of my setups, how you design a setup for me is it sketchy? Yes, good. Like how much wing does it have in it? Just enough so it doesn't kill me. Other than that,
I think we have our first drive-through for tech limits 7 minutes into the race.
The 460, the Lexus. Yeah, the VDP. This is not a steward's decision drive-through. So there you go. Track limits have already come into play. We said that it was going to be difficult to not get a drive-through. Well, the 460 Lexus has proved us right. And also, I'm looking at the timing board again. The 115 Grin Lilith, they have taken the fastest lap of the race now. The purple dot belongs to them, and they are slowly, methodically pulling out on Blaze. The gap is now 9/10 of a second, and I think over 9/10 over a second, if you can just about pull it out. We see the Lexus have a little bit of a wiggle there. If you can start to edge that over a second gap, if they get out of slipstream range, then you're kind of okay. Because you can use what you've got in Sector 1 and some of the handling still in 3. But it's this sector that every single time the Race Ventura car comes in, they need to have an absolute perfect lap. But look at what happened in Sector 3. 9/10 all the way down to 4/10. That's where the Honda is really at its best. And this poor Porsche has got to kind of try and run away again. If they can break the slipstream, it will be a lot easier for them because the Honda seems to struggle up in the gears.
Yeah, well, coming into today, the last thing I expected to see was a repeat of Spa.
Yeah, it's Spa just backwards this time.
Yeah.
And then what? But then once again, do we dare say that it could be sorted in pit stops? And what's happened to the 64 Pablo, one of our other Hondas? That's the final. No, that's the first sector. I thought that was almost the final sector for a moment. The gravel trap. Oh, just took the anti-cut curb.
It was a Romain Grosjean moment there. Not Romain Grosjean from Bahrain, but Romain Grosjean from Paul Ricard.
Yeah, the anti-cut curbs are vicious even to GT3 cars, and once again sector 3, the Honda's all over the back of the Porsche is where it is the strongest. But once again, I'm surprised that every single time the 115 they do manage to hold off the Honda through the straight. Like, you know, it seems that even Blazer's got a lot of wing on.
Oh, to the dive to the inside after they touch.
Dive! And the 37 has spun themselves out on the inside of Grim Lilith. It was a late dive. They saw the door open, but the problem with a move like that is that, you know, a lot of people swing out wide and then commit in. You always have to judge. Either are you close enough, or do you trust the driver enough in front for the 37? They've spun themselves out on the 115. The 115 has continued way up the road, and now Blazer's got to fight Shurex, the 420, who's powered through in that Aston Martin.
Yep, I think it was a bit opportunistic there from Blaze, getting a little bit frustrated maybe behind Grim, but I think he'll have the pace to catch back up. If he can pass Shurex, that is, depends how much of a fight he puts up. But yeah, I think just a little bit of frustration peeking through there this early in the race. I think he's just kind of desperate to get past and build a gap up before the pit stops open up.
Yeah, and you do kind of have to reel that in a lot of times as a driver, because you've got to be focused and, you know, at your 100%. It doesn't matter, you know, if you can't get by that person. You know, if you've got a plan, you will eventually get around them. And what's happened to the 184? It's a hard snap through turn 1, but they didn't make it to the wall or anything. But it does appear, yeah, that car is carrying damage. So that front end was damaged long before. And that's, you've got Skylar Vixen side by side with Bunny, and there's the Lexus in front of Alexis, just sort of like, I'm going to sit in the middle of the track. One of you two can have the slipstream, but I'm not giving either of you it, really. I want to run away.
It's kind of what I always do when I know I'm in a top speed car. I'll choose who I want to give the toe to, and then just kind of move over in front of them. It's a good tactic. I like it.
Yeah, well, sometimes it is actually advantageous if you know that you know that if you want that person past because you think you're faster than them, and then they can continue battling. I've done that before, and even in the BMW M2 CS Cups, the new car, we found out that you can actually bomb draft them. Because they're so slow, they don't instantly spin off like a GT3 car. So we were going down Bathurst, you know, Conrad Straight, and I was bomb drafting my teammate through because we realised that it's like, you're never going to get by this guy regularly. Let's just do some strategy.
Yeah, as we seem to have missed Czar getting past Paul in the final sector, using that Honda's grip to get past the new Yeti, but just fighting back here into. I can't remember what corner that is. Is that turn 3 or 2?
I believe that's turn 3. Looks up the inside, but it's just a little bit too far back despite the Audi. It does appear though that the Audi is still that little bit sharper in sector 1 than the Honda, but the Honda, all of them appear to in sector 3 just be an absolute monster, because it's just, I think it is that banked right-hander. They are just so stable through there that, you know, they just catch up to everybody. And Blaze has managed to get past Shurex, and we didn't catch it on camera. But with the 420 being right there as well, I'm wondering if they can start to stick with them. Although we're coming into sector 3, this is the Honda's sort of prime time. And speaking of Honda's prime time, there's Bracken in front. It was very, very wide. That might have been another warning for track limits. I didn't quite see how close they were to the bollards. But here you go, here's the number 10. You can see how much they were just gaining on them, really.
Yep, and I just have a correction here. The drive-through penalty for car 460 was not a game-issued penalty. It was for causing a collision.
obviously we didn't actually get that piece of paper in time. So penalty for the Lexus causing a collision, and I think as well was it a lap 1 issue that we didn't quite catch?
It apparently was, yes.
Well, there you go as well. Lap 1 is also judged a little bit more harshly, I'm sure, because realistically it's the start of the race. You know, you're never going to be a hero on lap 1 as much as a lot of drivers seem to think it, and that is true for any sort of grid that you go on, really.
Yep, Azar is sticking to the back of Bracken pretty nicely here. I think he sniffs a podium.
He needs to stick to the back of Bracken, you know, because the Honda, if you've got a slipstream, you're quite good in the top speed, but if you're on your lonesome, it does appear to struggle, and then you need to be basically on the bumper coming into sector 3, and that is where that car seems to, you know, really shine. But yeah, it's interesting to see down the straights what we would usually expect, especially if we were in a place like Bathurst, is just to blast by with absolutely, you know, no challenge whatsoever. Bracken will move to the inside, trying to break the toe. Here, there you go, with a little bit of slipstream. Now the Honda starts rocking and rolling. If it can get, you know, up into its gears. Zars still on the inside. It's going to be a long old way around the outside. Bracken will fight it, and they use that, you know, immense handling that the McLaren has got all the way around the outside, still all the way around the outside, giving them the space if they even wanted to try come back. But there you go, 77 retakes the position.
Yep, some very nice racing going on here. Lots of respect between these two people. Both staff at Simufur, of course. But yeah, they're showing kind of how it's done in close combat racing.
Paula as well is just looking, you know, in the background of there, thinking, you know, if anything happens to them, they can take that position. Or sometimes if Bracken may go for the move, or Azar may go for the move on Bracken, they might be able to follow through. And I thought this might happen. The 420 kind of dropped back at the start. I think once the Aston Martin has kind of warmed up and got its tyres sorted and everything, they have managed to stick to the back of Blaze, and that is also because they don't have the slipstream of that Porsche anymore. And I think in a straight line, as you mentioned, the McLaren is, or the Aston Martin, sorry, is a lot better if you give it to the slipstream and it can get past it. Azar has gone for a move. This is what I was talking about. If Bracken keeps on the inside as he does, will Paula Brady nip up the inside? They're thinking about it, and Azar hangs it all the way around the outside. Bracken's still on the inside. Paula's still looking for this maneuver. There's in the background as well as the 97 McLaren and the Jag, which has just been slowly doing. But look, they've got the better run. Neither of these cars have slipstream. Paula has the Audi with the slipstream, but it's the new gen. It's just not going as fast. Are we going to go for a 3 wide here, ladies and gentlemen? We're thinking about it. Paula swaps over at the last possible moment. Zar moves over. I don't know if that's to even give the slipstream. You might be thinking about it. Bracken's going to be too wide with Paula. Who will be the victor in this handling battle? They're going to be incredibly close. And Paula nips across the nose to sort of say, you're not having the inside for this corner.
And that, of course, has brought along Camirs and Hot Wheels with them. Oh, bit of contact there between the two McLarens.
For the 97 even, they thought about it, they looked at the inside. That is what I was talking about, is when you go for a move or you get into these sort of battles where you've got a train of 4 or 5 cars behind you, you can very easily lose, you know, all of those positions. You could be down 6 positions just because you went for a move on one person, or, you know, that one person behind you made a move on them. Everyone will follow you through. And I think that's what the 97 wanted to happen, but Bracken just about held on to it. So Bracken's going to get their head back down, chase after Paula. And the 97 also can't look, can't be too comfy, because here comes the Jag down the straight. Will they be alongside? They will not. They look to the inside. The 97 goes very deep into the corner, and there you go. The Jag, the 759, position made for the Hot Wheels.
Yep, giving them plenty of room there. Didn't want to cut across the sausages and perhaps get airborne, possibly. Sure, I can stick him with Blaze here. I think maybe could he be nursing some sort of contact from that hit with Grim, but as they're making the move here, that's That's
There
a
you go,
surprise. That's a surprise.
there's-
Oh, he's got it done already.
There's the Aston Martin, as you mentioned. If you can get it going, if you can get it up into that rev range where it actually starts to work, and there you go. And that is also the other car we haven't talked about in this race. That's Sevi in the 222, the other race Ventura car, going around, still, lapping themselves, getting the experience and getting very much the experience of, blue flags, but was, very good controlled lap by. Here's sector 3 where the Honda is the best. You can see them trying to nip up the inside, but it's going to give them just the outside for this corner, as long as the 420 defends it well, which they do, parks it directly on the apex. It's now back. I believe that the Aston Martin is actually a tiny bit sharper in sector 1, but what's going to happen come the straight, because now the roles are reversed. The Aston Martin has no slipstream, and all the meanwhile these guys are doing this. This is the thing that I was mentioning at the start of the broadcast. You have to pick your battles sometimes. You could do this for the next 40 minutes, but Grim Lilith is just continuing to pull out that lead.
Yep, it's holding kind of steady at 5 seconds. As the pit window is now open, let's see if we see anyone dive into the pits first time round.
I think we will, because there's some cars that are, they're already nursing damage.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. I think people are gonna be nursing grained tires as well with that green track start.
Yeah, well, the track's only. I didn't quite catch when it went, but it's only fast still. So it's taking a long time to rubber up, which sort of says to me that we had a fair, fair old rain shower earlier on, and that washed completely track dry, and it's taking a long time, especially with 22 cars running around, to even get any kind of temperature or any kind of rubber back in. And also, like you said, green tyres, green track 20C with a long straight, which if you don't have your brake ducts regulated is, it just cools them off completely. It'll be interesting to see. And going on about Audi speed, well, actually, I think Bracken in the 77, the slipstream has caught up, and they have. So the Audi is not as sharp as the last gen was in the straight line. I don't think they're going to be able to get the move done, just outright, but they're going to hang it around the outside. They're still on the inside is the Audi. They're going to once again, is Bracken go the high side.
Gives her plenty of room.
All the way around, gives plenty of room, but it still will be sort of position retained for the Audi. But it's interesting to see, because the last gen Audi didn't even need help. Whereas the new one, with that big wing that it's got on it now, and the new aero package, it doesn't seem to be the straight line speed monster it once was.
Yeah, Bracken, of course, I think it's taken a little bit easy today because of his DNF last time out. So he's kind of, I think, trying to bag as many points as he can to keep his championship hopes alive. Everyone does have one drop round, of course, so that would count towards his drop round. So he's not completely out of it yet. So yeah, just giving Paula plenty of berth there. Make sure they both make it around the corner.
Yeah, and also you don't really want to pick up any kind of damage coming into the pits as well, because we've seen some of the drivers have made mistakes in the pit lanes. Might even just be thinking, I've practiced my pit stops. I know as long as I stick basically right to the bumper of the Audi, there's a potential that I will leap them by just doing the pit stop. And if you're not losing tons of time, what is the point in doing the backwards forwards all the time? Which is kind of what I said earlier. Here we have an onboard view from Schurex, the Aston Martin, finally getting sort of up, and you can see it's around about now that they start to wheel in that Honda. Just need to be that little bit closer coming onto the straights, but yeah, top end speed, Honda doesn't have it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's just kind of a trait of Blaze's driving or not. He kind of seems to kind of gravitate towards high downforce setups. Pays dividends in something like here, Sector 3, but it really hurts him in places where he needs top speed. Of course, he did win Spa with that kind of philosophy with a high downforce. But it's Schurex is keeping with him here.
Yeah, it swings roundabouts, isn't it? You can make your car very, very downforcey, but then you might lose out in other sectors as Snowdog goes off the circuit, trying to give the space to the Lexus. I think that is a Lexus. It is in the number 15 Lexus. rejoins the track, only loses really one position and maybe a little bit. But then the number 15 basically does the exact same thing. Next corner, will this put them within striking range? I don't think it will. Bunny is right behind as well, trying to recover. You know, they seem to have they didn't really have the best of qualifiers that they necessarily wanted. Trying to go the long way around. The Snow Dog bounces over the curbs. The Bentley suspension will tolerate that, but probably won't thank you in lap times. And I think it's going to be a hard squeeze to the wall, but the 123 is going to be ahead coming into turn 1. Unless Snow Dog in the 555 can hang it around the outside. They brake very late. Can he get it switched back for turn 2? He can. Retains the position.
Although I believe the police are now looking at him for murdering that cone.
The track marshals are going to get very angry because he's moved one of their cones again. This as well, and here we go back. Bracken versus Paula. He's a lot closer coming onto the straight, but sometimes that's a problem because you see now you've pulled out, you've got maybe the tiniest bit of slipstream from Zara ahead, but because you didn't get the slingshot, they're still going to be too wide. It might just have the nose ahead.
Oh, he just does.
Paula drags back in, but it's only just. You sometimes want that kind of the gap to slingshot, is trying to shoot back in to not get a track limits. And this is once again exactly what happened. The 77 ends up on the outside, and Paula goes back through again for a bit of deja vu.
Oh, he does show her the nose. She goes a little bit wide.
Inside. It's going to be the outside for this corner. A little bit of get position got, and there you go. The Audi gets back ahead. They can defend the corner.
So I'm just trying to figure out what's going to happen here. Blaze is in the pits, so he's taking this pit stop early. Earlier than anyone else, at least, really, up the front. So maybe he has done the best of his tyres.
Possibly. Pablo and Sarah have already pitted as well, so these will be the 3 cars that have decided for the early pit stop, or sort of early. I mean, three more minutes and they would have been splitting the race in half. It could have been a strategy, possibly thinking that, you know, that Honda could have started light. They could have started light to try and run away from the Porsche, knowing that the start might not have been brilliant and they've just burnt all the fuel up and they have to come in. Or like you said, the tyres might be just completely and utterly destroyed and need replacing. But it'll be interesting to see when the rest of the field start coming in. It's a big pit window. You've still got 13 minutes of that pit window left, so you can go quite long. You could do 3/4 of the race before you really have to do anything.
Yeah, plenty of options regarding strategy. I was kind of hoping we'd see some rain by now, but it doesn't look like it's going to come to fruition. As Bracken, I was a bit late pulling out there. Seemed to have gotten away with it.
30 minutes still on the forecast, and we don't see any kind of rain clouds approaching the circuit, so I think it's just going to be a complete dry race. And as well, I'm actually thinking it might be slightly advantageous for the long strategy. Not only do you not get stuck in traffic, but if the track goes to optimum, you can adjust your pressures perfectly for them, because you won't be sliding as much and they will sort of change. Whereas if you pit now and you select them for the fast track, it might change and might hurt you a little bit in the end game.
But again, there's another kind of risky run that it might not go to it might not go to optimum at all. Maybe it just got washed too well, and it's only just. I think it was like 15-20 minutes and we turned over to fast track. So maybe another 15-20 minutes it could turn over the optimum, but it's not a guarantee.
No, exactly. So if you have to pick your battles. Zar has come in as well, and the Honda managed to pull away from.
A couple of battles happening up and down the field. Got Hamstedo here trying to chase down Wolf and Foxdale in the BMW. Yeah, it's not too bad of a battle.
The very much sort of stealth fighter looking Aston Martin, just black with a silver stripe. I mean, some people don't like their fancy flashy liveries and their chrome and everything. They just want Simplicity. Well, that's about as simple as you could get. Black with a white stripe.
Well,
Very,
I think that's one of the
clean cut.
one of the few liveries where I think a painted diffuser actually looks okay.
Yeah, usually painted diffusers look a bit strange, but it adds a bit of something. It's especially a stark contrast to example for this car, the 148 Paula Brady, who seems to have all of the colours on their car and all of the caricatures and everything on it.
Yep.
And even my cars, I mean, my racing colours at the minute seem to be black and chrome purple.
Yes, I've seen your car. Yeah.
My touring car's good. My slap and go touring car, black, chrome purple. What more do you want?
It makes it even better. You have a Simufur logo on it. So
yeah. And I mean, you could very much see the Simufur logo on the stream when I got spun around by a Swedish boy, but at least it was there. It was full on display, broadside, but that's just the advanced strategy. We'll get to that later on, ladies and gentlemen. It's the thing. I think the 77. Yeah, they have. 77 has pulled off. Paula caught them back up, but the Bracken has decided they have had enough of that, and they've elected to split the race in half. A lot of people split the race in half on this as well. It's kind of interesting to see because the strategy changes in some of the faster lobbies, I've noticed, because nowadays people only want to go long, it seems, whereas before, do you remember when everyone used to come in at the halfway mark, and then we had the wave of everyone had to undercut everybody, so as soon as the window opened, everyone was in? It's now completely changed again, where nobody dares pit until like a minute to go. Even in some of the SRO, we saw it on the broadcast that we did at the weekend. Nobody pitted, nobody did anything right up until like 1 minute to go.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to how you really feel the tires are doing at this point. Obviously, the updates in ECC have kind of made it so the tires get punished a little bit easier. So if you basically come out of the pits or start the race and start going ham fist on the tires, you're gonna soon notice it. So I think people just kind of taking their time with the tires. Don't pit too early if you don't want to, or if you don't need to, should I say, and just as late as possible for the tires, just to get that extra grip.
Yeah, exactly. And we had a penalty on the board, and it was cleared as well. But the 97, and that is Kamia's in that McLaren. That is our first actual correct track limits drive-through. So that one was not issued by the stewards. We had the confirmation from that. That is your first track limits, and I'm wondering how many other drivers are on 2, possible 3 warnings. Shurex 420 has finally decided that they've had enough of that and are diving down at pit lane. It'll be interesting to see where Blaze comes out. Has he managed to pull out a little bit? I think he was ahead coming into the pits, and if he's this far up the straight, it's going to be very, very close. Usually, if my spotter would shout to me that there's a car in the pits and you're somewhere on on that straight, you'd expect to be coming out sort of alongside the more sort of, maybe a little bit in front, a little bit behind. And that was a big slide for the 37 there. The fresh tyres are only a couple of laps old. They will not be approving of that.
Absolutely not. And it also, did he have any damage from the initial incident with Grim? Did he fix it? So we'll find out, I'm sure, in a wee second, once he catches Shurex out of the pits and see how close they are. Speaking of...
Blaze's pit delta was a 1 minute 11.5, and the rest of the field seemed to have had somewhere near that, but I think the 37, they go flying by. The 420 has getting up to speed, but there they are. So the gap did not... He has pulled a little bit, but it's not monumental. They haven't leapfrogged him by about 5 seconds. So the 420 might still be a threat once they've got the tyres warmed up. The advantage here to the 37 though, so they've done a few laps. Their tyres are already up to temperature. The 420 is going to have to work them in, especially at this 20C fast track. You really got to break them in gently.
It's so frustrating coming out of pits. And you want to push for the car ahead, but the second you start putting slip angle into them tyres, they're going to start chewing themselves apart. You just have to wait 3 laps, just get the temperature into them, get the pressures up the pressure, and then you can start to push them hard.
Exactly. And looking down to the field as well, Kimia's, that's the 97, they've come down pit road again, but that one was for their actual scheduled stop. They've come out just behind the 759 Jag, I believe. No, that's actually Jasper. So they, I saw a flash of orange and assumed it was the Jag. No, so the 223 has jumped him in the pit stop as well. And that's the problem with, with having a drive-through and then having to serve your mandatory stop. Paul Ricard, it's not exactly the longest pit in the world, but I can think of a lot shorter ones to get a drive-through at.
Yeah, it's probably, apart from maybe, I think Snetterton is kind of one of the shortest ones, I think, as well.
Or Brands Hatch.
Brands Hatch, yeah. Well,
Brands Hatch is like barely any time lost. I think it's about 20 seconds.
Although Brands Hatch does have that chicane on the entry, so it adds a little bit to it.
It depends how dangerous you're feeling.
Well,
if you go in at Mach 9, you could make it a very short stop, but then you might also be collecting pieces of your race car up from the side of the track. Paul and Brady, the 148, they've dropped off the Jags, and out they come, the new generation Audi. Where will that put them? There goes soaring past Bracken, and there you go.
Oh, he's got
Bracken's managed to get by before he's even before Paul has even sort of got off the pit limiter. So I mentioned that Bracken might just be staying behind because he knows he's better at pit stops. There you go, and they're almost going to be overthrown by Czar. In fact, they might be. The 10 has got the drive off the outside of the corner. They're still side by side, just about gets his nose ahead. And there you go. So they've actually been overthrown by Czar, and they've got another Honda to battle through again.
And I'm confused. Did Czar then have a bad pit stop? Because I think he was ahead of these two before he went into the pits. Because he was cruising around 4th place.
Well, Czar's pit stop is 116. And 116 for Czar, 111 for Paula, and 107 for Bracken. So Bracken's got the pit stops nailed. Czar had quite a long stop. I don't think I saw any damage on that car, so unless it was just had to be shuffled. And Paula had a 111, so once again, either slight damage or they had to be shuffled slightly, but not as much as the Honda.
Of course, last week Paula had the downfall of speed in the pit lane, massive overspeed coming into the pits, and got a stop with 30 for their troubles. So I would imagine they've probably just been very cautious in the way in this time.
Yeah, it could be that as well, because also Paul Ricard is a very mean pit entry. It is a 90-degree into the pit. You know what I mean? It's, you got to slow the car down hard and not hit the wall. And Steffi, the race Ventura 222, comes in as well, pitting out of the 21st space. Down there with Sarah, but still going, and like I said, still gaining all of that experience needed. And here we see right on board with Jasper, the 253 Ferrari. I kind of expected this car as well to have a little bit more get up and go in the straight line, but I think it's just the setups that some of these drivers are running. Because do you remember the one race that we did here, and we saw these cars touching 285 kilometers an hour with race fuel, and it was terrifying to think that you can be 15 kilometers an hour slower than a guy who's carrying around 60 liters. But either the 1.8 update has not been kind to the Ferrari, which I know a couple of drivers have mentioned that, and a couple of people in the sort of the SRO divisions have mentioned that it's not the sharpest knife in the drawer anymore. Or it's the setups are a bit of both. But I remember last year, maybe the year before, the SRO was just dominated by this car. It was everywhere. And now, I think we have one on the grid in America. One or two, but very rare.
Jasper only has a top speed of 277 kilometers an hour, whereas Grimm in the Porsche is 279. Oh no, Blaze has a drive-through. He's went past track limits.
Oh, Blaze. 37 as I did. What did I mention earlier? I wonder how many people are on 2 to 3 warnings. Well, obviously the 37, they had those the 2 or 3, and that has finally come undone. That I'm guessing as well, because it cropped up in that sector 3. They've been trying to push so hard, to catch back up to Grimm. Just been throwing that Honda into its best sector as much as they can, and it's just come undone for them. And I think, there you go, they're going to pull off immediately and serve it. So downfall and a sad day for the 37. I think they'll probably come out even behind Bracken and Czar with the length of this pit lane. Grim is a mile up the road now.
Yeah, just a bit unfortunate there. Obviously just pushing a little bit too hard to try and cement that second place ahead of Cirex and completely turned around and bit him.
Exactly, so as the 37 trundles through the pits, this battle is getting very, very spicy. The 97 trying to get through, that is Sarah, who's I think a back marker in all of this. So the 97 is trying to catch up desperately to ZZ, which is the yellow and black Porsche ahead. So they must have managed to get by them at some point, obviously before the timing lines have updated it. But yeah, ZZ's ended up ahead of the 97. And then you've got Jasper as well looking at this battle, sort of licking his lips, trying to just hold on to the back of these guys, so that you know when the straight comes, they might be able to do something. And yeah, there you go. It's been updated. Something happened in Sector 3 to that 97.
Yep, definitely seems like 2054. Yeah, it's about 2 seconds lost usually by the looks of it. Hard to tell really, nothing showing at the time really what actually happened. But they 2 minutes flat, so they obviously lost a bit of time somewhere.
Yeah, exactly, and here you go. Jasper's looking all over this battle, the 97, sort of diving this way and that way as the 604 for Sarah takes a bit of a dive off the track. Still managing to get around though, you know, still sort of learning that Porsche as well. But here comes the straight. You've got a Porsche in front, followed by a McLaren and the Ferrari, and it's hard to tell from looking at everything that's happened today what will even happen. I used to be able to just say that yeah, the Porsche will just be overtaken in like 5 meters, but no, once again, look what's happened. McLaren has been in the slipstream the entire time. And they've only just they've looked up the inside as the 97, gone for the move, but it just was too far back there. But I'm really surprised at these Porsches. They seem to have straight line speed now with Paul Ricard, which is a thing they never had.
According to our software, out of these 3 cars, the Porsche is the fastest in the straight line.
Which that never ever happened, ever. Like, the Porsche just used to be basically useless at Paul Ricard unless it was raining, and then you kind of had the advantage because, you know, rear engined, more grip. Are we going to see a move like we saw from Glaze earlier on? No, we don't. The 97 gets as close as they know. They very much know where the front of their car is, trying to get onto the back of the Porsche. Look at the drive out of the corner. It's just that the 18 is gone up the road.
It's not even it's not even fair how much traction the Porsche has.
You can just floor it. Just you know, come out of any kind of corner, floor it. That's it. And as well, I've noticed in chat and what we have been alerted to. Have you noticed how the track has now gone to optimum? So yeah, about 15 minutes in, as you mentioned again, it's finally turned to optimum. What will that do to some of these drivers? Well, 1, lap times, and 2, maybe the tyre pressures.
I might start doing the lottery if I'm going to keep getting these calls right. But yes, as you say, the pressures could be dropping a little bit too low now, as they usually a bit less sliding. Usually you have to bump the pressures up for an optimum track over a fast one, because you might not notice the sliding, but there's definitely a bit more slip on the tyre than usual. So maybe people are going to start losing a bit of pressure here, and you might see some extra sliding.
We've also had come through the piece of paper from the stewards, a warning for the 117, I think that was. Let me have a look. Lap 19, warning for car 117, erratic on the pit exit, and the pit exit here is pretty vicious. You come out directly into what is braking zone for turn 1, so yeah, I can see that. You really do have to be on your toes there. But speaking of people who need to be on the toes, the 18 is under fire from all directions. They've got the 97 directly behind them. Jasper is looking, to try and find a way around the 97, which is probably the worst place to be, because you've got to attack, the person in front of you, but if you do, you kind of leave yourself vulnerable as well from behind. And look at that. There you go. What I mentioned, the McLaren has a bad drive off the corner, trying to keep it with the Porsche. The Ferrari is now alongside and will be on the inside for turn 1. I think they might just about get it done unless the McLaren tries hanging it all the way around the outside, and there's been contact.
Oh.
Contact between the 223 and the 97. The 223 goes for the switchback. Sort of recovers themselves from that. They're going to once again be too wide coming into turn 3. The McLaren's going to try to swoop it all the way around the outside. They will have the inside for this next sector, and there you go. But all the meanwhile, while this is happening, the 18 is managing to scarper up the road, and like what we mentioned, I used to say that that's fine, the Porsche would lose it in this straight again, but it just does not seem to be the case, and the Ferrari has dropped quite a way off the back of Camilla's.
Yeah, this is turning into probably one of ZZ's actually best races. This is on the fringes of the top 10 here. This could be... I'm kind of rooting for them now. Go ZZ.
And ZZ's trying to just run away from the mad people in the McLaren and the and the Ferrari. It does appear that the McLaren, like Camilla's, has got they've got the pace, but we've just seen a couple of slides here and there, and then they get tangled up in the battle with Jasper, and that keeps pulling them away, pulling them back from the goal of getting around the 18. So maybe this might be just enough now that because the Ferrari has fallen back, they can get their head down, try to catch back up to that Porsche. But like I said, in a straight line, it seems that the Porsche can hold its own now. It's very interesting because I actually haven't raced that car since some of the major patches and the changes in ACC. And I just assumed it was like the old days where that car was useless. But well, I have to eat my words now and maybe do some testing later on, like in my own free time, just to see, is this really true?
Hit the like button if you'd like to see Hemi eat his words. And how
I haven't had any tea yet, so it would be at least something.
Hands up in chat if you want Hemi to main the Porsche next season.
No. You know I cannot Porsche. I have already attempted to Porsche. I could not do it. I tried. I failed. I am quite happy in my Bent, and everyone else who enjoys Bentley. Snowdog will back me up. There you go. Me and him will be Bentleys.
Yeah. So did I see the other day you giving him some Bentley knowledge?
I told him that you don't want my Saabs because they're dead.
Fair enough. Speaking of Snowdog, he has caught Pablo and is probably going to do the overtake here.
Bentley is also no real slouch in a straight line, and like I said, the Honda with no slipstream does seem to struggle a little bit. Depends really how much wing you're running on that car.
I was going to say,
especially because of Bentley Corner at the top of the circuit, I think people would want a lot of wing on this car, and as you see, even in the slipstream, Snowdog isn't gaining, so they must have very much a maximum wing set up on that car. And there you go, look how stable it is through there. We've driven it before, and normally you'd be all kind of crossed up, and actually the 555 looks to the inside. They can really hang it sort of tight around. Pablo goes a little bit wide and a little bit of a shake there, will still be too wide, trying to maybe do the cutback on this sort of long double apex corner. They go wide there, does the Honda. They would be just about alongside, but it won't happen because you have that sort of long swooping right, and then that always, even if you're alongside, will always put the car on your right back ahead of you, and they can defend the next two corners.
Well, according to our data, Snowdog is missing 9 kilometers over Pablo in a straight line. So he has got plenty of wing on that car.
Yeah, so the 555's running a very heavy wing, probably a heavy rake as well to really shove that car to the ground for the high-speed section, which is just hurting it in the straight line. And here we go. This is kind of what I mentioned, the 97, sorry. They've got the pace, they keep catching up, but it's getting around that Porsche and just not making those tiny mistakes. It seems to be that Sector 1 is their strongest. They always reel them in here. that perhaps Sector 3 is almost to ZZ in front.
Yeah, a couple of battles starting to heat up now. We have this one between Skylar and Alexis. And remember I said earlier that someone was sniffing for a podium?
Yeah, so Zar, the Honda, once again, they've got this sort of car dialed back in and going. They've fallen back here because of the pit stop. They had a longer pit stop, did the 10, then the 77. But now that Paula has kind of fallen off the back of these two, Zar doesn't have to worry about that. He can have his eyes completely forward. And yeah, has really started to catch Bracken. I'm wondering if there's possible something to do with the tyres, or it's just Sector 3, it seems. Once again with the Honda, it seems to be where it is the absolute strongest, because coming out of Sector 1, I'd say that gap's opened up a little bit as we come out into the straights, and we'll see what happens in Sector 3. I think they're going to close right back up again by the line.
Yep, not a whole lot differentiating these two in their top speeds, about 2 kilometers in it. But Zar does have the slipstream here, so that could be swinging in his favour a little bit. Let's just see how quick that Honda is in Sector 3 compared to the McLaren. I think that's probably one of Bracken's weak points this race has been Sector 3.
Yeah, and it's a weak point for the 77, and it's a strong point. So overall, as the 10 has a massive drift, and they do manage to hold it. That was fantastically saved at a scary moment in any mid-engine car. When you feel it start to rotate out from under you, usually that is the sign of your race is over and you're backwards into a wall. But no, the 10 managed to keep that Honda firmly underneath them. It'll be great news for Bracken ahead for the 77, who once again we saw didn't have the line that they necessarily wanted at that McLaren, but the Honda couldn't do anything about it just because they were basically broadside. But once again, look, they have caught back up by the start finish line, not as much as it was last lap, but Sector 3 is where we're going to see this move pull off, I think.
Yep, he just needs to keep it under control. No more deja vus. Turn that Eurobeat off, Zar, and get back to work.
Well, it is a Honda, so it's...
Well, that's it, yeah, it's good point.
It's fine. It's correct for the, for the marquee.
I was actually trying to find some Eurobeat on Spotify to play quickly there, but it passed the moment it passed.
Next week on...
Maybe next week, yeah.
Eurobeat be into his soundboard. We got a soundboard with just deja vu.
That's not a bad idea. Take it on board.
Exactly, so there you go. This is the cutting edge innovation that we have here at Simufur. These are the things that we will work for. And speaking of Hondas as well, and going for battles, Skylar Vixen up the inside of Alexis, the big Lexus managing to. They're looking like they want to go for the cutback maneuver. Went for the sort of the tight first sector, but they just couldn't make anything happen in the second. The 660 is through, and once again, it's going to be a question of what car is has the greater speed. The Lexus, as we all know, is a big honking V8 brute, but then you put maybe a really high downforce setup on it, and it might not do as well. But saying that, they're too wide coming out onto the straight. You've got to be careful not to run too wide. That will most definitely once again be a track limits. But if you touch those bollards, and I know myself, here we go. Will the Lexus get wound up and get into its power band enough to overthrow the Honda? And it doesn't look like it. They're only just starting to pull. Might be close enough for a move. They might think about it. The 15 kind of moves to the inside. The 660 is not defending it, but there you go. They're still too far back to really make a move happen.
Yep, I was expecting a little bit more there from the Lexus, but it seems like that Honda's pretty trimmed down on the downforce levels, although all about the inside. That's the outside for this turn. Is it a cut back?
Oh, because for the cut back, the 660 parks on the apex. They can't get by, and all this fighting is doing as well is bringing Bunny back into this equation. The McLaren has kind of been in the background watching this, but just those two sectors alone have brought them right back into contention. So Bunny could, go from the top 10, go from P10, so top 10, which is nothing to shake a stick at, could potentially go to P8 if something opens up for them.
Yep.
And also while we're looking where, Zar has managed to get around Bracken.
He has. It didn't take very long. Possibly a mistake there from Bracken. He has lost a bit in the final sector. In fact, sector 2 he seemed to lose quite a bit to Czar. So maybe there was something there as they come up to a back marker.
That is a very damaged Audi.
That is a very damaged Audi.
It's a damaged Audi.
That's going to hold Bracken up, is it? Is that going to hold Bracken up? Yes, it is.
Yeah, it probably will do. Coming into the corner, he kind of Czar manages to squeak by. Bracken has to take the inside line, and there you go. The back marker moves out of the way, but that will not help the 77, where Sector 3 is already weak for them. They've been held up in the place where they're going to lose more time anyway.
Yep. Still again a couple of battles here, kind of simmering to a boil.
We have 5 minutes to go. A couple of people starting to push now. I mean, obviously the tyres would have definitely been up to temperatures and pressures now, and you've burned all your fuel off. It's kind of a now or never. And yeah, like I said, there's like these little trains of 3 or 4 people who are all close enough that even the back person could leapfrog 2 places if something happens.
Yep. And just to make sure they're still there, Grim is still out in front. 11 seconds in the lead now.
Yeah, very much been a clean race for the Race Ventura 115. Got that, the monumental start. Did exactly what we said to do. It's almost like they were listening. We said they need to have the start of their life. And what did they do? They had the start of their life as the 15 looks for the outside line on the 660. The 660 defends the inside, potentially going to go for that cutback again. Bonnie is all over the back of them, trying to look for it. But because of the wider line that the Honda took, they had to drive off the corner. They won't be in striking range once again by turn 1. But all of this is, every single time it backs them up to Bonnie. It might even be a bit of a strategy. I know I've done it sometimes. You decide that you're going to hold someone up to get them into a battle they don't necessarily want, and then run away again.
Yeah, there's also the Lexus is probably in the worst position. They have to attack and defend, so you're kind of looking in front and looking in your rear view, and that's just distracting all around.
And especially in a Lexus, where it can sometimes have a little bit of a nibble at you, and the tyres like to wear off.
Speaking of tyres wearing off, that looks like one understeery Lexus.
Yeah, I believe that Lexus is really starting to chew the tyres away. Sector 1 is just losing out so much. Even the Honda ahead, look, they've kind of gone, and we said that the Honda isn't necessarily, the Sector 1 king, but yeah, that Lexus, poor Lexus is kind of just eating its tyres away. And I think it's always kind of been like that. If I remember driving that car, the Lexus was always a case of, it's a great straight line speed car, it's comfortable, and in the wet you are unbeatable, but it just has that problem of chews through fuel almost as fast as the Mercedes, and tyres, yeah, they're done within about 20 to 30 minutes.
I think if you can get the Lexus to rotate on the rear axle, it kind of helps. The front tyres is kind of where the issue is, as it goes a little bit wide there again. That's just compounding. Once you understeer once, you understeer twice, and you understeer 3 times.
Yeah, it just builds, especially when you get a little bit of extra temperature in the tyres. And there you go, look at how much they have to now defend. The 123 is all over them, and they're going to try squeeze them off. They're going to have to give them the car's width. The 123 will be the outside of turn 1, but the 15 is going to have to brake so much more unless they want to understeer off the line. They're going to be trying to hang it all the way around the outside. 15 comes into turn 1. The 123 is looking for the cutback maneuver, moves to the outside line, trying to get the drive off, but just the 15, the Lexus is still there. But you can see how much time that they are losing in the corners.
Oh, nearly around the outside there. Thought better of it, but that's not a happy Lexus right now, is it?
No, that Lexus, the tyres have completely and utterly gone. I would say that they're now they're going to have to nurse it around. The 660, the battle for that is gone. They're just about to see them there coming up, and even running out onto the back straight. It's just not a happy car anymore. They're going to have to fight tooth and nail with Bonnie now to keep that 9th place position.
And that's just going to compound their issue, is having to defend on tyres that you can't defend on. So it's just going to chew them up even more.
So the 123 moves to the outside. We've seen this move happen and sort of play off for a couple of people. The McLaren has got way more rubber on the tyres. They're going to cut it narrow and give each other the space, and swoops round on the inside. And now we've got a long right, but the 123 one's a little bit wide. The 15's back up the inside. Can they get the move done before the next corner? They're hung out on the outside again. There's almost contact. Looking for that cutback manoeuvre. The 123 parks it on the apex, and there you go. I think now that the 15, unless they've got something up their sleeve or the 123 makes another mistake, I think that the tyres on that race car are just done for.
Yep, I think Bolly would just drive away now, unfortunately for Alexis. But this is a nice little battle coming to the end as well. Snowdog just doesn't have the top speed to get around Pablo, but Sector 3 here, he's right on him.
He has the handling, it just doesn't have the speed. Both cars seem to be, matched
Pablo goes wide
a little bit, but Pablo goes wide. Once again, I think we might be seeing a couple of drivers suffering from the tyres, finally giving off on them. But it wasn't close enough for Snowdog to really make anything of that. The 555 has to slot back around. So as the timer comes down, can they get the drive out of the last corner? No, they cannot.
Yep, as we're just about to come on to the final lap of the race here. I wonder if Grim will actually make it across the line or not. Nope, they won't. That's the flag. Just like that, that was perfectly timed.
And they also got perfectly timed where the two race cars crossed the line basically next to each other. I have a feeling that Grim might have slowed up a little bit just to have that. So it's the 115 takes the checkered flag with a monumental drive. Sherrick's the 420 comes in second place. A good drive from them, stayed out of trouble, had a great thing. The person who we were thinking they would get a podium, they do. Zar in that Honda takes P3. Bracken, another great drive, but just lost out a little bit at the end, will be P4. Paula kept the nose clean in P5. Blaze Pine keeps the fastest lap of the race, but will fall down to 6th with that drive-through, but still a good recovery drive. And the 759, Lone Jaguar, you really can't complain at 7th place, can you? Especially with that car. It's not an easy car to live with or drive or race or do anything in, really, but, a great showing from them. They've been exactly, they've put the car where they needed it. They've been in contention whenever an opportunity has arose. The 660, Skylar will take that P8, followed by Bunny, who was catching them a little bit. So I'm interested in, had the 123 not been held up.
5-second gap on the Lexus Bunny pulled and gained about 3 seconds on Skylar.
Those tyres are destroyed on that 15. I don't think you're going to get your money for them back. And Kamiya's the 97 as well. Another car that's showing great pace, just same thing, had that drive through. ZZ does manage to hold on to that 18 over Jasper, but obviously loses out to Kamiya's overall. When the last time we touched on that battle, Pablo will hold off Snowdog, just managed to keep it all sort of on the road in the last sector, and Snowdog will take the 15th position.
Well, we might not have got the rain we expected, but I thoroughly enjoyed that race.
Yeah, we didn't. We theorised that the weather would throw a spanner in the works. Well, I mean, it did. It just threw a spanner into making us look bad, because we were all saying how the rain was going to do something. But it was not to be. It was a sort of nice, cool, crisp day here in at Paul Ricard Circuit. But still, even though that they didn't have the rain to deal with or kind of help them along, I'm really surprised that both Porsches, the 18 and the 115, for the speed they had, they could hold their own down that straight. And obviously Grim Lilith with just driving away from the start. It was certainly one to see, and certainly one that I'm now sort of questioning, what are the cars that I used to know at Paul Ricard, because I haven't driven here since the 1.18 patch. It seems that everything's been flipped on its head.
Well, that's kind of it, isn't it? We used to drive pretty much every car at every track, but now we've kind of settled on what we like and what we enjoy. We don't really know what else is good and what isn't at the moment. By the looks of it, the Porsche apparently has top speed for its advantage, and the McLaren doesn't seem to be as strong here as it used to be. It used to be pretty much an OP car here. Again, the Hondas, it really was nowhere this track, and now we have 3 in the top 8 cars. So yeah, everything's kind of topsy turvy.
And the Honda, it doesn't have the outright straight line speed like it does at Bathurst, but if you've got a slipstream, you can hold it. It's just, it takes a while to get going. It seems to just run out at the top end, which is, once again, not what I would have said for a Honda. I would have said, oh, that's an Aston Martin thing, or, you know, there's definitely sort of, you know, some of the other cars' problems. And the Ferrari that's lost, what was it, almost 18 kilometers an hour.
I'm kind of curious now. Is the NSX now that good at Bathurst, or is it now one of the worst cars?
Well, next time we go there in a championship, maybe if we've got a Honda, we'll have to put the eyes on it and spy along. But yes, thank you for joining us tonight. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the close racing that we've had, and hope you'll join us for round 4 as well next week. You know, now the question is, can anyone really take it to Grim Lilith? That Porsche is looking even stronger and stronger, even with the drop round. It's going to take something to knock the Porsche off of its charge, really. But if you don't want to miss that, the best way to do that is subscribe and hit the notification. You won't miss when we go live or that. And you know, thank you for joining us tonight and being in the chat as well. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.
See you then.
Goodbye.